Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating global trend. It's mixing culinary arts, community, and, well, some pretty clever entrepreneurship. Found it genuinely surprising, actually. We're talking about home supper clubs. So forget the usual restaurant model for a sec. Imagine these, like, gourmet dinners happening right in someone's cozy
Wow.
home. Think about it. No huge restaurant overheads, right? No need for tons of fancy commercial gear. Just, well, your cooking, your stories, and this community of people eager to try it.
And, you know, what's truly fascinating here, the real core insight for this deep dive, it's how these supper clubs, they're not just about intimate dining, they're really pioneering a kind of decentralized hospitality model. It lets creators, bypass the massive setup costs, build direct links with their customers, and keep more of the profit, which is huge. It's like a micro-entrepreneurial revolution happening in food. We've seen it starting up across India, and now it's spreading pretty rapidly globally. It really taps into a shift in what people are looking for now.
That's a really interesting way to put it, decentralized hospitality.
Right.
So, okay, at its core, it's a private dinner event at someone's home.
Yeah.
Simple enough. But given how informal that sounds, isn't there a bit of a fine line, between just having friends over for dinner and something that starts looking, well, commercial? How do hosts even navigate that sort of gray area without needing, like, full restaurant permits right away?
Yeah, that's a crucial point, and that's where the decentralized idea really comes into play. A home supper club is basically a private ticketed dining event in someone's actual home. Now, unlike a proper restaurant, the beauty is often its temporary nature and how intimate it is. Typically, you're looking at a small group, right? Often maybe 6, maybe 12 guests, and they prepay for this very curated, very personal meal experience. It's definitely not about churning out covers. It's all about that bespoke quality.
Right, a bespoke. And when we talk about paying, we're not talking small change here, are we? The sources we looked at mentioned hosts in places like Bengaluru or Gurgaon in India. They're charging around €2,500 per guest, per person. And get this, some are reportedly earning lakhs per month. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, a lakh is 100,000 rupees. So we're talking potentially hundreds of thousands of rupees every month. That's a really substantial income for something based at home. And often with very little startup cost. That potential really, really caught my eye.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the core elements go way beyond just the food. It's not just about eating. These events are specifically designed around, well, the ambience, the narrative, the authenticity, and creating a genuine connection, something you just don't often get in a bigger, more commercial place. We're talking, beautifully themed dinners, maybe chef-style plating that honestly could rival top restaurants, thoughtful wine pairings, perhaps, and those really personal touches, like maybe the story behind a particular ingredient, or it's a family recipe passed down. Things that, traditional restaurants just can't really replicate on that scale or with that intimacy. It's about crafting the whole evening, the whole experience, not just serving plates. And if we step back and look at the bigger picture, this trend is really thriving now, precisely because people crave these unique experiences, these intimate moments. Over the often, let's face it, impersonal nature of mass dining, there's a definite shift in what consumers are valuing. It's about the memory, the story, the human connection.
Yeah, and that really hits home, doesn't it? It taps into something I think we've all felt. With things like past travel restrictions, maybe making us yearn for something novel. And just general dining fatigue sometimes. From the same old restaurant scene, there's this real, like, heightened desire for connection. And maybe a bit of exclusivity, too. It feels like social dining reinvented small, carefully curated, rich with stories. Makes you think we've all been in those huge, noisy restaurants, right? Where you can barely hear the person across the table. This feels like the total opposite. Like discovering a secret, delicious little club where the conversation matters as much as the food.
That's a perfect way to describe it, yeah. And a really key factor driving this boom is the low barrier to entry. Relatively speaking, of course. Unlike launching a full-on restaurant, you typically don't need all the same heavy-duty commercial permits right off the bat. The main things you need, well, a clean kitchen, obviously. A really solid awareness of food safety that's not negotiable. And crucially, you need that knack for hosting, for making people feel welcome and connected.
Okay, now here's where my curiosity really kicked in, reading through these sources. How do you actually do it? How do you launch one? Like, what's the very first, most practical step for someone listening who's thinking, hey, I could do this?
Right, the starting point. It's all about defining your concept, your unique angle. What kind of specific experience are you going to offer? What makes it special? Will it be, say, local cuisine tied in with folk stories from the region, or maybe a really dedicated vegan tasting menu, or perhaps you aim for that chef's table, fine dining feel, but right in your own home. Once that vision is clear, then you think about platforms and bookings. How are people going to find you and sign up? Instagram is massive for this, obviously, for the visual appeal, showcasing the food, the setting, but there are also some specific supper club platforms popping up, or you could use private WhatsApp groups or even general event sites. The real key is building that anticipation. Use great photos, really sell the theme, and that naturally brings us to the practical side of things, especially the legalities. Because while the barriers can seem low, it's super important to check your local regulations seriously. And this isn't just a quick Google search sometimes. Laws around preparing food for sale, even from home, guest capacity limits, noise rules, maybe even specific home-based business permits. It can vary wildly. City to city, sometimes even neighborhood to neighborhood. It's less about one simple permit and more about understanding this, like patchwork of local rules. Being proactive here, doing your homework up front, is absolutely key if you want this to be sustainable.
Yeah, that's a really vital point. Can't just jump in blind. So, okay, once you've navigated those initial hurdles, the focus really has to shift, right? To crafting that whole guest journey. It goes way beyond just delicious food. You're basically curating the entire vibe, the ambiance, how the food looks on the plate, the music playing, maybe even gently guiding the table talk, fostering conversation. The goal seems simple, but it's powerful. Make every single guest feel genuinely special, like they're part of something intimate, something exclusive.
Mm-hmm. And then comes pricing and thinking about growth. A smart approach, often recommended, is to start small, maybe even slightly underprice your very first couple of events. Why? Well, it lets you test the waters, get that crucial feedback, build some initial buzz and goodwill. Once you have that real-world input, then you can fine-tune things, adjust the menu based on what worked, figure out your average spend per guest, and maybe start thinking about upsell options like offering specific wine pairings, unique craft cocktails, or other little add-ons that boost the experience and the revenue.
Right. And this feels like it ties directly into building that community, that word of mouth power. Once you've absolutely wowed your guests, you should actively encourage them, right? Encourage reviews, get them sharing photos, talking about their experience online and offline, because those happy guests, they become your best marketing team, powerful ambassadors for your supper club, bringing new faces to your table.
Exactly. And just to circle back to the financial side for a moment, the sources we looked at consistently highlight hosts, particularly in India, reportedly earning lakhs monthly, with what's described as no fixed costs. Now, no might be an exaggeration, but certainly low fixed costs. This income potential is significant precisely because it leverages assets you likely already have: your home, your kitchen, and it strips away a lot of that typical restaurant overhead, staffing, rent, utilities on a commercial scale.
So let's translate that. What does this all mean for you, the listener, if this idea is sparking something? The scalability seems pretty remarkable, depending on your ambition. You could potentially scale up just by hosting, say, 2 or 3 events a week locally. Keep it manageable. Or you could think bigger eventually. Maybe create a whole network of host chefs operating under your brand. And the ways to make money don't necessarily stop just at the dining events themselves.
Precisely. You can get creative here. Think about maybe offering online versions of your popular recipes, or creating your own branded spice blends or special ingredients to sell, maybe even merchandise if you have a strong theme, t-shirts, aprons, or branching out into hosting chef classes or focused cooking workshops. These all leverage that core expertise and passion you have. They extend your brand beyond just the physical supper club evenings. Okay, but this raises an important question, doesn't it? We need balance. What are the potential pitfalls here? What can go wrong? And how do you set yourself up for success? Well, first and foremost, food safety. This is absolutely critical. Cannot stress this enough. It means meticulous handling, being super careful about allergies, asking guests beforehand, clear labeling, just overall spotless cleanliness, and total transparency with your guests about ingredients. Consistency is another big one. Every single event has to deliver that magic, that delight, that unique experience. Can't have off nights. Now, when it comes to scaling up, there's a bit of a warning sign in the sources. If you expand too much, too fast, you risk losing that special intimacy. The very thing that defines a supper club. And regulations, again, you have to constantly keep an eye on them. Track licenses, zoning laws, permits for guests. These things can change. And finally, let's be real, your personal energy, hosting every single weekend. That can definitely lead to burnout. It's demanding work. So finding strategies like maybe rotating venues, partnering with another host sometimes, that can help maintain balance and keep the passion burning.
Right. So let's boil it down. If you genuinely love cooking If you're a natural storyteller, you enjoy bringing people together. If you crave maybe a bit more financial freedom without needing huge amounts of capital up front, then yeah, a home supper club might just be your ideal venture. It really feels like this powerful blend of passion and potential profit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're selling an experience. It's not just food on a plate. You're selling this authentic, intimate vibe that honestly people seem to be truly craving in today's world. And it's doing it in a way that really does innovate on that old traditional hospitality model.
So imagine this, turning your own dinner table into a small, potentially high-margin business. A kind of decentralized hub of culinary delight right in your home. That's supper club economics in action. Makes you think, doesn't it?